Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. It is anniversary time. Welcome back to another all-new episode of the PR from the Heart, Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. To be precise, we have reached episode number 12. That is the 12th trolley stop, and you know what that means. It is time to celebrate. It is the one-year anniversary of PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager here at PR from the Heart, joined as always every month. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell, my co-host here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. David, we have reached truly a milestone in this wonderful program that we have been sharing for children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books. And I see we both have sports coats today. We've dressed up for the occasion.
We do. We're usually in just our work shirts, but today this is our version of a tux, right?
Yes. I was actually thinking about getting a tux, but I thought that might have been a little bit overdoing it, so to speak.
Yeah, probably. We're fine this way. It's an informal bookcast, so this is as formal as we'll get.
Exactly.
But it is a celebration. The 12th. This is the 12th. When you say our 12th,
the 12th bookcast, and of course we never travel alone. Here, our trolley in our neighborhood, and of course with the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, we want to continue to express our gratitude and appreciation to the hardworking team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. Now, if you're familiar with Reading is Fundamental, of course, they are the largest children's literacy non-for-profit organization in the United States, and specifically, there is one in most major cities across the United States, including Pittsburgh. That is where David still resides. That's where he hangs his hat, so to speak. So each and every year, in fact, the most recent year, did you know that Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, they provided over 23,000 children's books to over 80,000 children in need. Reading is Fundamental, and specifically Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, the organization that we're blessed to work with here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. They provide children's books, literacy resources, and developmental tools for children that come from low-income families in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. So each month we are proud to make a donation to Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh so that they can continue to do the great work that they are doing, again, for children and for parents and for families that come from low-income families in the Pittsburgh area. We encourage you, if you feel guided to do so, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, if you wish to support the team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, you can make a donation if you feel guided to do so. As we like to say here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, no donation is too large, no donation is too small. You can head on over to riffpittsburgh.org/donate. And again, that's just one of the many ways that you can support Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, David. And it's been such a joy to be able to work with Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh, and especially beyond the scope of that, to let children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books know that these resources are available. They're available in different ways, whether it be going to Amazon, whether it be supporting your favorite local independent or children's bookstore, or one of our favorite pillars of communities across the United States, local libraries.
That's right. Shall we begin with the first book? Are we all set?
Yes.
Finn?
We have the celebration all set. I know that I have some beautiful water over here as well, so we're freshly hydrated. So important to be hydrated here on the bookcast as well too. So if these messages that we are going to be sharing, this is a special 2-book bookcast here on our 1-year anniversary edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. If you are wishing to be able to support the world of children's literature, children's authors and illustrators, including the 2 that we will be sharing on this month's edition of the bookcast, and just to really pledge your support for the development, for the minds and the hearts and the souls of our little ones. And if you wish to pledge your support for us here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, we encourage you to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and share this very special trolley stop. That is episode number 12, the 1-year anniversary edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. So David, the trolley will be racking up some mileage, but it's interesting because we're going to be staying well, of course, the trolley always travels first from San Diego all the way out to Pittsburgh, but we're going from Pittsburgh, actually all the way from Pittsburgh back to California, to be precise, Hollywood, California.
Oh,
and
okay.
one of our newest neighbors here at PR from the Heart, we've had the opportunities to work with them for the past several months. Award-winning children's author Seth Eliot Santoro has released his brand new children's book into the world, and it is entitled Finn and the Ferocious Flu. Now, one of the things that I really love about Seth is that he is what is referred to as a smiologist. That's SMILEOLOGIST. For those who are keeping score at home, I believe that's how you correctly spell and pronounce smiologist. So he does wonderful work to help children who are moving through insecurities, fears, that have gone through trauma in their lives, whether as the result of something such as the pandemic, which we'll of course be talking about in a little bit of a different way in Finn and the Ferocious Flu, and just children that are moving through everyday challenges. Because again, David, one of the things that we've talked about throughout the past year of the Bookcast is that little ones had their own insecurities and fears before the pandemic. And then you kind of layer on what kids have been experiencing during the pandemic. Resources such as Finn and the Ferocious Flu and the other children's book that we're going to be discussing today here on the 1-year anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, they are so important. So I'm really excited to be able to talk about this book with you. What a way to kick off our 1-year anniversary celebration of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, to talk about Finn and the Ferocious Flu. And it's really something that we can all understand because we've been through the pandemic, and Finn is going through his own version of a pandemic.
That's right, and we're still in it, and I hope we see the light at the end of the tunnel soon. But in the meantime, I think it's a good book for not only parents to read to their children, but also teachers could use it in a class. And in the back of the book, there's activities to follow the smile, and we can get to that a little later. We can talk about the follow-ups, but in the foreword, Seth wrote that it's not really about COVID, but it does deal with a family in a city dealing with a flu epidemic. So it's more generalized to the flu than it is to COVID.
Right.
He goes on to say that COVID is caused by a different infection than influenza viruses, and he makes that clear. The book is dedicated to everyone who's been affected in any way by the COVID pandemic. And as I reflect back on the books that we've discussed over the Bookcast for this past year, this is the first one that begins with "Once upon a time in a city far away," and that's a bit of humor, pulling "Once upon a time" and updating it to sort of Star Wars in a way. Once upon a time in a city far away. Well, at any rate, in this city lives a normal family. Mom and dad work hard, and Finn's brother Brad, and to quote Finn, is a pain in the butt. A little humor here, and I guess this is more for elementary kids. It's not a preschool book. You could read it and edit it as you go along. Preschoolers might not understand all of it. But Finn is 8 years old, so that is perfect, and he likes to read books and play games and things that 8-year-olds like to do. But mom was carrying a person, and dad was somewhat occupied, and Finn's brother was, as Finn says, super silly. But Finn was an optimist, always looking on the bright side of things. And one day, a terrible illness spread through the city. And we all have experienced this. The city went into quarantine, social distancing, malls were closing. In the midst of this pandemic, Aunt Dee Dee caught the flu, the family's aunt. I guess it was the mother's sister, I'm not sure. And as Finn described it, Aunt Dee Dee left the world. And mom and dad went into shock and wouldn't let Finn and Brad play on their block. They couldn't go outside. It really scared them with the death of Aunt Dee Dee. Well, 2 weeks passed. Now the pandemic is going, and 2 weeks have passed. And how long will it last? And mom worked from home, but she was too disturbed. It really affected mom. And Finn realized this. He realized that his parents are stressed, but in a way, Finn loves that his dad has time to play with him. In a way, the pandemic had some advantages for Finn because the parents were busy and had their own world, but now they're all together and there's more time to spend with his parents. So in a way, Finn likes this. But Finn does think his brother Brad is a dork. and as Finn puts it, he does grace us with his snarky-tude, meaning attitude. There's some humor through all this book with the pandemic, but it has its humor side too. Well, schools have closed, and now they have to go through video teaching, as we all know. And Finn was thinking, what does it matter if I learn now? Why can't I just quit? So in a way, the pandemic is working in other ways too. Well, 4 weeks go by and life is on hold. Mom was crying one day and she yelled at Finn. And his parents fight more, he found out. And when will this be over? Well, it's interesting that Finn thinks that Dad is doing his best. He becomes more chatty, and it's interesting to find out that Finn is getting more hugs. So, and Dad is making the breakfast, but secretly, since he's getting all these hugs and attention, in a way, Finn doesn't want the pandemic to end because he wants time to freeze. He's getting attention, and he loves that. He loves being with his parents. Well, Dad has taken charge, and he does the shopping, and Mom is too nervous to do it. She doesn't like to go out, and Dad doesn't like the long lines and people not wearing masks. And I think that's interesting that there's a little cheer out for wearing a mask in the book. In the meantime, Brad is creating something in his room, Brother Brad, and we don't know what that is. But to Finn, Dad has become his new hero. Dad has a positive view that this will pass. And Finn wishes that Mom felt the same way. She doesn't seem as positive as Dad. Mm-hmm. Well, getting through each day is a brand new adventure. And I think we find that out too, especially in the height of the pandemic. Getting through a day was a brand new adventure. You never knew what was coming up. And some days emotions are tough and they're everywhere. According to Finn, he says, Mr. Virus, I am not a fan. Everyone is freaking out about paper towels and toilet paper, which I think is a funny line. That's the first thing that people concerned about. Well, Mom is getting adjusted to quarantine, so it looks like she's coming around. She hopes it'll bring the world closer. And Brad has a few choice words about the flu, makes everyone laugh. I won't repeat his few choice words right now, but they are comical, and everyone laughs. Brad is got them laughing, which helps feelings and emotion of the family. So they're working on it. Everyone is home all the time, and Brad is less annoying than usual. Brad, the brother. Finn can't get used to washing his hands all the time, and the law says we have to wear masks. And as I was reading the book, I thought how helpful it could be for children reading the book or having the book read to them that Finn uses a mask and how important that is to wear a mask. Now it's 8 weeks into the flu. It goes by weeks as you read the book. Finn says, welcome to the new normal, wearing masks and washing your hands and a different way of life. That's what he calls the new normal. There are family routines now. They have a weekly movie or game nights, and that's Wednesday. And oh yes, on Wednesday they have pizza night, which he always looks forward to. And things start to improve in this new normal for the family. In fact, Finn caught a smile on his mom's face. She's getting used to it, and she's feeling better and adjusting to the quarantine, I would guess you say. And Finn remembers the smile, and here's what he says: the way she used to smile before the flu. So you can see it has, in Finn's world, it has taken over Finn's world, the flu. Oh, and I like how Seth interjects Finn's feeling about his family and how Finn loves his family. In this world of the flu, there is nowhere else that Finn would rather be, which I think is very nice. It's saying how much his family means to him, and I think that would be helpful to a child reading the book or having the book read to them. Oh, then Finn goes on to express some feelings that he sometimes wants to run away, and sometimes not. But the pandemic has taught him some things. One is to share those feelings, which I think is very interesting. And those feelings are drawn by him. And as most families do, they post things on the refrigerator. And on the refrigerator goes those drawings that Finn has made about his feelings about the flu. And as you look at the illustrations in the book, you can see some of those drawings that Finn has made. Well, now we're at 2.5 months. Days are longer than others, but the city has changed forever. And I think we all feel how our neighborhoods and our way of life has changed somewhat. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to stay that way. Well, Finn says that he has never seen the trees and the flowers so alive when he looks outside. Without humans, they can flourish and maybe and thrive first, because no one's out there, but he's looking at the outside, and they're flourishing and thriving. In a way, the flu makes us appreciate what we have taken for granted. For instance, the flowers and the family, and Finn feels the same way. Oh, now Mom is excited to return to work, and she's adjusted. She said that she was sorry for being angry and confused and sad. So her feelings are coming out through telling her family about the way she reacted to the flu and the confinement and the quarantine. But Dad reminds everyone it is good to forgive, not to judge or condemn. More feelings. Oh, and I like the illustrations in the book, especially there's one near the end of the book where the family is happily hugging each other, but it reminds everyone that we must wear a mask. And I like that reminder. Now, here we are, we're coming to the end of the book. It's at 4 months, and the new normal is reality. City is reopening, and wearing masks has become a fashion trend. Oh, and toilet paper is back in stock, which I think is funny. And people are permitted to walk and go outside and have a little intermingling, but masks are still important. And as the book ends, Mom is happier, and the whole family agrees that that means everything. Together, and this is sort of the point of the book, together we can get through anything. Mm-hmm. And Finn says he's grateful to be alive, and he'll soon be able to see his grandparents again, and he has that to look forward to. And I like what Finn says, and I've written it down here, that we must all learn to ride this roller coaster called life. Mm-hmm. And that I really like that, the last paragraph, which I'm going to read. Finn says, and it refers to once upon a time, and I would like to say we lived happily ever after, but we know this much to be true. In times of trauma and crises, we undercover the real you, which is a wonderful ending that the family has been through so much. And I think this is sort of a condensation of what everybody probably has felt, some feelings that are in this story. And I like the book, and I think it's now in the back of the book, there are a lot of exercises and suggestions that have been made. So I would that's just the story. But another part of the book is the activities.
Correct.
That's the follow-up. So I think that's the first part, the story I just read, but the activities give families chance to pick an activity and explore it.
Agreed.
And I hope that's hopeful. Do you have any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I do a few things to add is that, of course, one of the main components of Seth's work with children is he encourages kids to smile from the inside. Now, normally when we think of smiling, we have the smile on our face, it's radiating out into the world. But there's times in our life when we can be very hard on ourselves, very down on ourselves. We can even just be scared or afraid. And our heart is sad or it's anxious. And so Seth does such a really wonderful job encouraging kids to be able to smile from within and have it radiate out into the world. Now,
in a way, the pictures that Finn drew is that it comes from within and radiates onto the paper. That's one form of what you're saying, right?
That's an astute observation, David. Smile the S stands for shock, which is nature's first line of defense to protect the mind, body, and soul. So if those who are encouraged to read Finn and the Ferocious Flu, when you go through the book, above each page, there's a letter SMILE. So in essence, the part of the story when Finn is first learning about the pandemic, he's in shock. He's in his own, he's processing what's happening at that particular point in time. And then M stands for mock-acceptance, which is the pause between the painful event and the pain itself. So again, you'll see the letter M during certain parts of the book as well too, when Seth is starting to realize, okay, well, the event happened and I'm still kind of processing things and I'm still kind of moving through some challenging emotions and feelings. And then I in SMILE stands for in overwhelmed, which is frustration, anger, sadness, tears of laughter, significant emotions. So the part in the story when, Finn was realizing, well, wait a minute, things are different now. I can't spend the time with my friends in the way in which I used to. I have to be sequestered at home with my family. All of us, David, when we went through the pandemic, in its earlier first days, we were very upset. We were angry. We were sad. We had tears. We didn't necessarily know what was going to be happening, how long it was going to be lasting. But here's where things start to shift, is the L in SMILE stands for learning. Whenever we're moving through something, whether we're a child or an adult, something is always there to teach us. Even the pandemic has had its own lessons.
Yes,
we needed to learn, right? Like the importance of enjoying the simple things in life, whether it be spending time with your family or reading a book or enjoying nature. I love how Seth really describes and Finn describes, Seth describes Finn, who describes how nature, towards the end of the book, how nature is so beautiful. And those were one of the many things that we took for granted, was just spending quality time in nature. And then the last part of SMILE is E, which stands for embrace, to accept what has happened with grace, dignity, and with grace, strength, and dignity. So when you were talking about the last part of the book, and I would say we lived happily ever after, but we know this much is true. In times of trauma and crisis, we uncover the real you. So Finn in the story is sharing what he's learned. For example, one of my favorite passages in the book, it's not just Finn, but his entire family. Dad talks about being grateful, gracious, happy, and forgiving, because it brought us even closer and we're lucky to be living. So you can see how everyone is like, okay, we've been through this experience, we've processed it, we've been through our own emotions and feelings, we've learned things, and now it's a matter of embracing and accepting. So David, you've heard of this, but like when someone passes away, there's the stages of grief that people move through. And I really like this because in a little bit of a different way, this is kind of like taking little ones through the stages of grief. If something is, you
Yes.
don't necessarily get to that point of embracing and accepting something right away. You have to experience whatever it is that you're experiencing. You have to kind of be with your emotions and feelings and then connect with your emotions and feelings. And then ask yourself, okay, what is this here to teach me? What am I meant to learn from this? And then you can get to the point where you can say, I'm accepting what has happened, and you get into more of a comfortable zone. So again, this is I really love how this book can be shared, especially by parents or by caregivers with children, because when little ones are being introduced to some of their more challenging emotions, they may not necessarily know how to even identify them, let alone connect with them, let alone understand them. So the fact that, Seth is doing such great work, and the fact that he really loves to help kids and families and adults heal and navigate stressful times and big changes in their lives, we really need people like Seth, and we really need characters like Finn out there in the world now more than ever before.
Well, you're right. And I can see it would be a good exercise for a teacher now that kids are coming back to school or still learning, going to school over the computer, to have the teacher maybe read the book to the class. It wouldn't take that long. And then do some follow-up exercises or a project or something. I think it would be a very I really like the what you just went through, the smile, and then there's other suggestions of what you can do. Well, basically drawing your feelings or talking about your feelings, different way of getting your feelings out. I just love that the drawing your feelings and putting them on the refrigerator. When I come to think of it, that's what kids are doing. Every one of us who have kids have a refrigerator with magnets and drawings on them. And in a way, that's what's just sort of realize that's what is happening in a way. There are some feelings going up on that refrigerator that happened in that family.
That's true.
I remember my the middle son was very angry as a elementary, something happened. I can't remember the exact, but he drew a very angry bear, and it went on the refrigerator, and that was his way of expressing some feeling. He was one of the quiet ones of our three. He was the quietest one, and his feelings came out with that drawing. And in a way, that's what Seth is doing in the book. There's different ways of expressing your feelings.
I love how.
But I do hope that some people get this and use it in a classroom situation. I think that would be helpful there too.
The classroom setting is so valuable as well too. And you had also briefly alluded to the activities in the back of the book. I really enjoy the tips and tricks that Seth shares, and I'll just share one of them for shock. So this is a way of communicating with kids in their language, in the way in which they understand, but being very direct with them. So for shock, he breaks down 5 tips and tricks. 1, sometimes you just need someone to sit with you in silence. 2, there is no wrong way to be or act now. 3, there's nothing to worry about until there's something to worry about. 4, it's okay not to feel anything, or perhaps you're feeling everything. And 5, everything will be all right. And it's interesting, David, too, because us as adults, we've shared this for the past year on the Bookcast, we all have the inner child within us.
Yes.
And there's times where we're scared. Like when the pandemic first happened, we didn't necessarily know what end was up and what end was down, right? So being able to communicate these things in a very simple way that little ones can understand. And also on the discussion thread. So for example, with shock, Seth encourages to discuss shock, use an example from the story, or talk about how they or you have experienced shock in the recent past. So the story can serve as a jump off point for little ones if they've moved through some sort of other traumatic experience. It necessarily doesn't have to be pandemic related, but I really feel that one of the calling cards from Seth's work and Finn and the Ferocious Flu it's a great conversation starter to talk with your kids, because whether you're an educator, a parent, or a caregiver, there's times where you're wondering, how the heck can I talk to my kids about fill in the blank here?
Yes. Oh, I agree. This is the story is just half of the book. Really, right. It's really the catalyst that gets the discussion going. So it's really a well done book, and I enjoyed it. Plus, he's got a sense of humor too, yes. And he's got a sort of a sense of humor that appeals to that age group. You know, not a preschooler, but those 8-year-old, 9-year-old boys and girls, but boys mainly, Finn, have that funny, irreverent sense of humor that he picked up on, and he uses it in the book. And I think that connects with that age reader too.
Agreed.
So
I have to also briefly add, it's interesting because, you know, during your time on The Neighborhood, you obviously kept everything G-rated, and I can only envision, like, you know, Seth used the word dork in the book, and I could just imagine Fred saying the word dork or pain in the butt. I'm not, that might not necessarily have translated back in the day, kind of thing.
No, but you know, Fred Rogers was working to a different audience, a preschool audience, and that was not in Fred's makeup, but they were using what they have inside.
Yes.
And expressing that way, and in a comical way. You can do so much more with the elementary kids by being slightly irreverent, and it catches them too. They'll, you know, he's talking sort of to them. Right. And I think it gets them into the story better and the activities. And I that didn't bother me, but no, I don't think that would be something that Fred would say.
We also do want to acknowledge Robert Dursley, who did a wonderful job with the illustrations of Finn and the Ferocious Flu, and really bring this wonderful story to life. So we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, if you're interested in purchasing your copy of Finn and the Ferocious Flu, you can head on over to Seth's official website, which we've included in the description below. If Amazon is your preferred online vehicle of choice, you can purchase your copy of Finn and the Ferocious Flu there. And if, of course, while on Amazon, one of the many ways that you can support Seth and Robert is by leaving a 5-star review for Finn and the Ferocious Flu. Again, that's one of the many ways that you can support Seth and Robert and remind them that they're doing much needed, wonderful work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books in the process. And of course, you can head on over to your favorite local independent or children's bookstore to purchase your copy there. If they do not have it, you can speak to the bookseller and say, "Excuse me, sir, madam, I happen to see this wonderful book, Finn and the Ferocious Flu, on the year anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast," and see if they're interested in stocking their copies. And of course, you can always check your local library to check out your copy of Finn and the Ferocious Flu. They're especially for our listeners and viewers in California. But if you do not necessarily live in California and you would love to be able to have your library stock the book, again, this is just one of the many ways that you can let librarians know that these sorts of books exist, because David, there's so many books out there, and libraries are always looking for such important resources for kids, and it's important to be able to let libraries know that these sorts of books like Finn and the Ferocious Flu exist, so that they can share them further.
And there's story time now that the pandemic is easing up somewhat. I think story times are starting back up in libraries, and this would be a perfect book for story time. So yes. I think librarians like suggestions of what might, and so libraries, bookstores, support Finn and the Ferocious Flu. And, you know, this book of 2 years from now will still be valuable because it's not necessarily about the pandemic we're in now. It's about the flu and something wrong in the family, an illness in the family, maybe a passing of Aunt Dee Dee. It can be used in many different ways. And
children and adults will always be going through challenging times. And this just happens to be the book focuses on the pandemic, but one of the great things as well about children's books is that even if it's a time capsule piece, so to speak, capturing a specific moment in time, the messages, the themes, they can always help children no matter wherever that they're at on their path. So the trolley has traveled from San Diego to Pittsburgh to Hollywood and back to San Diego for our second and final book on the year-long celebration, the year anniversary edition of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, courtesy of one of our newest neighbors here at PR From the Heart. Best-selling author Scott Feld has brought into the world Dax to the Max, the first book in the Dax to the Max series, Dax to the Max Imagination. And this is actually inspired by Scott's real-life son, also named Dax as well, too. And I do want to be able to give some props, as the kids like to say, some kudos to Scott and his entire team that are doing such wonderful work for children. So David, Scott is a certified kids life skills coach, and he's been doing this for well over 20 years. And he also works with the team at Minds in Motion here in San Diego, who I've had the opportunities to speak with and get to know a little bit better. And the work that they're doing for children here in San Diego, in California, across the country and around the world, with little ones learning about life each and every day. Us as adults, whether we're a parent, a caregiver, an educator, it's up to us to be able to help children learn about different things in life and to fine tune their skills, their gifts, and their talents that they're stepping into the process. I really love this book, and we're going to be diving into the pages momentarily, but it really encourages two specific things above all else. But there's many other messages besides this. One is the power of your imagination, especially as little ones, and also instilling and encouraging the habit of reading, which is, of course, one of the main reasons why we've been here at the Bookcast, here at the Neighborly Reviews at PR From the Heart over the course of the past year. And this is published by our friends and neighbors at Hasmark Publishing International. Such a wonderful and timely story. And it's interesting because you mentioned a bear a short time ago.
Yes.
We were talking about Finn and the Ferocious Flu. And we're going to be mentioning another bear in another form. So David, let's go inside the pages of Dax to the Max Imagination.
Okay, well, Dax to the Max, as you said, was written by Scott Feld, right?
Yes.
And apparently Dax to the Max is a series of books, right? And Dax to the Max is the first in the series, and this one deals, as you said before, with imagination.
Yes.
Oh, and in the editor's notes, it explained that Dax is here to help kids discover their superpowers.
Right.
That all kids have superpowers. These superpowers help kids find their inner strengths and confidence, and that's sort of the overall purpose of the book, or in a way. Well, imagination is a tool that Dax learns that he has, and he learns how to use it. So it begins with Dax welcoming the reader to join him and his friend Lauren. Now, Dax is only about 5, and Lauren is 16, sort of the caregiver, babysitter friend. She knows quite a lot, having already found her superpowers.
Yes.
And she's joining him today because today, according to the book, is the day that Dax is going to have a chance to get his first superpower. Mm-hmm. Well, Scott Feld begins Dax's adventure by asking the reader, what is a superpower? Not like that he explains this at the beginning. He explains that it is a power so great, so wonderful, that it makes the impossible possible, and it is available to anyone. And I like that. And he invites the reader to join Dax and Lauren and learn how Dax gets his superpower. In other words, his Dax to the max. So here we go. And Dax and Lauren are enjoying this beautiful day, and they notice these puffy clouds flying above. And Lauren asks Dax what he sees up there. What do you see in those clouds? And Dax is a little a little confused. He doesn't quite understand. Oh, I know what I'm thinking. They start out by the clouds, and what I thought was wonderful, that I think they were just looking at clouds, and in the clouds, and I've done this too. In the clouds, they're seeing different pictures, and it's well. And Lauren says, "Now look at that cloud. It has a heart, and over there, that cloud has a face." And that stopped me for a while, because I remember doing the same thing with my kids. They would look up and see different things in the clouds. And in some days, the clouds, they have very distinct pictures, and some day they don't. But as I was reading that and reading back my notes, that it just popped into my head that we went through the same thing with our children. Well, anyhow, that's how this adventure starts. They're using their imagination and seeing what's in the clouds. So Max was a bit confused, though, and Lauren asked if he knows how to use his imagination. She asked if he ever pretended to be a firefighter or an astronaut or other things. Well, it's the same with the clouds, Lauren tells Max. It's simply using your mind to make something that is not real for you, which is interesting, real for you. And now look back at the clouds, and Max becomes so excited after gazing for a few moments. Over there is a brontosaurus. Then over there is a tree, and over there is a flower. And I like how Scott Feld has worked brontosaurus in, because what other animal, I guess you could call it, is more fascinating to an 8-9-year-old but dinosaurs,
right?
And it's interesting that he sees a brontosaurus. It's the perfect image for a 5, 6, 7-year-old. They seem to be fascinated, and I wonder what that fascination is. I've often wondered what the dinosaurs are, and I think that it has something to do with power, I think, and feeling in control, maybe. I don't know, but I'm not a child psychologist, but I'm sure that dinosaurs and a psychologist could explain that to us.
I think it's also just to briefly mention that it's also the size of the dinosaurs, because when you think of big animals, right, like you can think of even something like a giraffe is big, but then when you think of like what can be larger than a giraffe, well, I know a dinosaur. Dinosaurs. Yeah.
And they do their own movies in their mind too, with dinosaurs too, at that age. Because I remember my kids collecting the dinosaur. And the interesting thing, they know how to pronounce all of the names.
Pretty well.
I can't do that.
Pretty well, yes.
Well, Dax he sees the brontosaurus, and he's so excited of the images he's seeing. Then he spots a cloud that looks like a magician, sort of a wizard. It was so clear to him, and the letters form in the sky. "Do you see what I see?" he says to Lauren, and Lauren is smiling because she remembers so well the same moment when she discovered her superpowers. But Lauren knows that this is only the beginning. The first step is learning and knowing. Well, the next step Max will have to put into action is to make sure his powers become strong in him. And again, it's the imagination powers that come strong in him. The letters that formed were in a message that Lauren read to Max, and basically the message said, "Go to the cave and your imagination will be the key to unlock the mystery." So off they go to the cave. "Enter if you will," says the message. Dax was a bit apprehensive, and "What does that mean?" Dax said. Well, Lauren replied, "I know." She knew what that meant, but she said, "You have to find out for yourself, Dax." Well, they entered the cave and walked slowly. Dax was still apprehensive. They turned a corner inside the cave, and there was a bear sleeping. A big, round, and strong bear. Dax screamed, of course. Well, let's get out of here. The bear woke up, but Lauren was the reassuring friend. She said, "You can't run away." She said, "Now is the time to use your imagination in a different way. Imagine the bear is nice, kind, and gentle. And remember the clouds? You used your imagination and they became something else. They became a flower, a brontosaurus, or whatever. And you did it. You made those clouds that way." Now, the bear is now fully awake and starts towards him. And Dax, naturally, but he's scared. The bear seems to be meaner and meaner, and he's growling and showing his teeth. And then Dax takes a breath and says to himself, "Use your imagination and make him something else in your mind." And he closes his eyes, and the bear becomes a cartoon bear. Again, kids like cartoons, and it's interesting he made him a cartoon bear. And he's a funny bear, as if he drew the bear and the bear came to life. So in a way, Max is imagining he drew this bear. It's helping him deal with the bear and his scary feelings. And now he's in control. He drew the bear and the bear came to life, but it's a cartoon bear. Dax gets into his thoughts. He forgot he was scared, and the bear stops growling and sits up, and Dax notices the bear seems to change. In fact, the bear's almost smiling. Then the bear spoke. "Hi, Dax and Lauren. I'm Friggly the bear." I guess that's how you say it, Friggly the bear. A magic bear created by your imagination. Now, when you came in the cave, I was scary, but you imagined me as being funny and friendly and being a buddy. I became all those things. Of course, Dax is amazed, and he expected Lauren to be too, but standing in front of him was a funny-looking cartoon bear, and it's talking. So this is what the imagination is doing. "You did it," Dax says to Lauren. "You used your imagination." Well, I think I've got that wrong. I think Lauren says to Dax, "You did it. You used your imagination, and you learned your first superpower. You can use your mind to create the world you want." Well, that's interesting for anybody. You can use your mind to create a book, to create a record, to create anything. Using the imagination is a wonderful gateway to
imagination and creativity. Yes,
go together. And look at the people who wrote. Well, look at the authors of the books. They use their mind to create these wonderful books. Now, Friggly says, "You must take your newfound power of imagination to your next adventure."
Your next quest, yes.
That's the next quest. And somehow Friggly's fiery eyes light up the cave wall as if they were flashlights, and they project a message, a clue on the wall of the cave. And Friggly, who can also read, and that's funny, a little aside. And Friggly the bear, he can also read, by the way, read the clue, and it was an island in the sea is a place to be. I'm going to the sea and an island. When I arrive, I will get a hand. I think the hand means applause. When they find the island, he will get some applause. And he says to the bear, "Can Lauren come too?" Lauren says, "Of course I'm coming, Dax. I wouldn't miss it." And off they go for Dax to tap into another adventure of imagination. And in the final, and in the editor's note, I noticed this. It says, "Kids, I do not recommend you approach a grizzly bear or any other wild animal and close your eyes and imagine it to be friendly." I do recommend you approach anything that scares you, stops you, or upsets you, and look inside yourself. Imagine how you can make it different, better, more fun, exciting, cool, awesome for you. And I think that one paragraph really sums up the book. You don't go through dangerous things. And I was wondering, in the imagination, do you think they go into the cave and actually see a bear, or is that the imagination? They pretend they see this ferocious bear and they turn him into a cartoon, etc. Is that how you see it, or did you see it literally, that a bear is there?
I think, well, I saw it from both perspectives. Originally, when I was first reading the book, I said, like, oh my gosh, it's a bear. And it's like that Dax has been given the opportunities to literally, move through his fears and insecurities, really connect with his creativity and imagination, and focus on making the situation better. That's what I originally first thought. But, then I also looked at it from the perspective of, kids' imaginations run wild. And this whole thing could have been, again, it was and has been a journey, an expedition, and a quest. So I can also envision that, perhaps that Dax walked into the cave and in truth, there was nothing there, but it was a matter of him needing to move through this experience. It was kind of like created in his mind, thus he created it into his external reality. So one of the great things about children's books, David, is that it's open to interpretation. And right. I love this because you can line up 10 different children that come from all different walks of life. And if you ask them for their thoughts on the book, they can share different things. This kind of goes back to, I know when when Mr. Rogers would talk to little ones about different sorts of things and he would communicate with them, he wouldn't get the same response. He get different responses for children. I just love the fact that, superpowers are important. And I go back to, I know you guys did a week worth of episodes on superheroes.
Right.
And I feel it's so important because sometimes we think that superpowers are external. You've got big, strong muscles, whether it be like, someone like Batman or Spider-Man or a professional wrestler. And the superpowers that we have inside really are within our creativity, our imagination, our love and kindness and compassion and care for ourselves and for other people. So I really credit Scott for connecting children with this message, the fact that you don't need to be this, LeBron James of the LA Lakers or Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they're superheroes in real life, that everyday normal people, we all in our own way are superheroes. I also think that this is important. It's an important message for adults because as life, David, let's be honest, as adults, we can get jaded, cynical, stressed, frustrated, upset, and we can lose the childlike innocence. Mm-hmm. And I feel that, it's important for us to be able to connect with our imagination and our creativity because it makes our lives more joyful and not filled with as much stress and drama as well too. And I also love the fact how this is going to be a series. This is just the first book, Dax to the Max, Book 1, Imagination. The fact that Dax is going to be going on wonderful adventures together. I can only imagine what's in store for his next journey in the process.
Oh, this is just, there aren't other ones already written. This is the first one that is leading off a series. Is that correct?
Correct.
I see. Okay.
Yes. And plus also, one other thing as well too is the connection that Dax has with Lauren. I think it's important that little ones know that there are trusted adults in their life that care about them besides their mom, their dad, their grandma, their grandpa, their teachers. There are people like your literal next door neighbors, or maybe let's say if there's someone who runs a boys and girls club or your babysitter. There's trusted adults more than you might think that are actually out there that care about little ones and want the very best for their emotional and physical well-being in the process.
Yeah, and all of the books we've done on the Bookcast, I think are, that I can remember, are really excellent, not only for parents to read or caregivers to read, but also teachers to use them as a teaching tool. And
Resources.
The two books today are more for elementary age, I believe.
Correct.
But you can read them to a younger child because Dax is only 5, so that's preschool. But I think this book goes up until I think 8 or 9. You could read this book.
Absolutely.
But Aubrey, you were referring to children's books and how you get different interpretations
and responses. Yes,
that happens to adults too. I remember taking a class in college on Victorian novels. Can you imagine a Victorian novel? I was an English major, and that was, we had to read a Victorian novel a week, and we would then discuss them, and that was a challenge. But everybody would have different opinions. How this one book, even well-known books like a Dickens book, people interpret them slightly different, and it's fascinating. And that especially comes with reading, because reading, you make your own scenery, you make your own credits, you figure out how this leading person looks. I mean, this is a book without illustrations. Of course, the children's books have illustrations. At any rate, I just think that when we do these book casts, as we call them, book casts, and reading, since my children are grown, I'm getting back into it now because grandchildren, but I don't read children's books as often as I used to read because they're off on their own now. Our children are grown, but now I've taken some of the Bookcast books, and just this past Saturday night, I took them to our 2-year-old grandson and read some of them to him.
I love that.
So it is, I guess the Bookcast is jumping into the next generation, so to speak.
I love that.
But,
and the fact that we've had the chance, David, ranging from, books for, early picture books, ranging all the way to Matthew Cordell's Cornbread and Poppy, which is for early readers, all the way to the work of Donna Sager-Cowan and her Superhero School series. That, we've covered such a wide range, and it's been, I believe, around 30 books or so that we've reviewed over the course of the past year. So if you are tuning into the 1-year anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast in episode number 12, and if you say, David and John, I want to be able to catch up on past bookcasts, the great thing, they're all available at the PR from the Heart website, prfromtheheart.com, or you can, of course, subscribe if you haven't had the opportunities to do so to our official YouTube channel here at PR from the Heart. That's one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for all of the authors whose books that we've been blessed to review over the course of this past year, to pledge your support for PR from the Heart, and also for us here at the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. If you feel that these particular messages from Finn and the Ferocious Flu and Dax to the Max, the first book in the Dax to the Max series, Imagination, can help and benefit a little one, perhaps you're just wanting to provide an additional resource of care and support for a fellow educator in your life, or maybe a librarian that's in your family, or that's a friend or colleague of yours that could benefit from having either one or both of these books in their local library. Again, you can subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and share this very special trolley stop that has been episode number 12 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, our 1-year anniversary celebration. Again, if you're interested in purchasing your copy of Dax to the Max Imagination, we've included the official website for Scott Feld and for Minds in Motion below, which is mindsinmotion.com/Dax. But again, to make things easier, we've included it in the description below. You can also head on over to Amazon if that's your preferred online vehicle of your choice. You can leave a 5-star review for Dax to the Max. That's, again, one of the many ways that you can let Scott know that he's doing great work for children, parents, families, educators, those who love great children's books. You can also go to your favorite local or independent children's or independent bookstore and purchase your copy there. Again, if they do not have their copy of Dax to the Max Imagination in store, you can make a suggestion to to the bookseller, to the owner of the store. Same thing for your local library, especially for all the libraries here in San Diego and in California. If you find your copy of Dax to the Max Imagination there, feel free to check it out. If it's not there, feel free to suggest to one of the youth services children's librarians to let them know this would be a great addition to their library, whether you live in San Diego, Pittsburgh, or any place else in between. As we hear the trolley, I always wanted to know, like, I kind of go back to different episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and like how sometimes like the trolley would be bedazzled if it was like, you know, the holidays, there'd be like some, you know, holiday decorations on it. So we see some bling on the trolley. When we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go. David, any parting words? First up, I want to again express my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to you for the opportunity and the privilege. We still have many more magical trolley stops to come. So many great books to be able to share as we move into the spring of 2022 and beyond. But this has been, I'm coming across the 8-year anniversary of doing publicity work and working with children and children's authors. And this has truly been one of the highlights of not only my personal life, but also my professional career, to be able to work with you and to be able to give back to children, parents, families, and educators. If you would have told me when I was growing up, okay, you're right now as a little one, John, you're going to be watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and then later on in life, you're going to be, you know, collaborating with David Newell and also helping to, you know, to give back to a wonderful charitable organization such as Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. I'm just, I cannot put my gratitude into words other than saying that this past year alone has been such a privilege and an honor and a blessing.
Well, I've enjoyed all of our 12 bookcasts, so to speak, and I see these bookcasts as not being critical of any one book. I don't want to criticize. I want to talk about the positiveness of reading, and my favorite are library. I love libraries.
Yes.
And I think we do our best to stress libraries too. You know, some people who may be watching the bookcast can't afford to buy a book. So a library is certainly the alternative to, and it's a wonderland when you go into a library.
It is.
But I'll get off my soapbox now and just
well, actually, I'll just mention one brief thing is that actually this past Saturday, I had the opportunities for the first time since I've been here in San Diego. I've been here in San Diego for 16 months. I walked into the library in La Jolla, to be precise, the La Jolla Rifford Library. So this is my first time being in a library in San Diego. So to Katya and the wonderful team at the La Jolla Rifford Library, a special hello to all of you. But you did want to mention one thing before we begin to conclude.
Well, and since you're doing that, I'll give a shout out to the wonderful Carnegie libraries in Pittsburgh. There are many, and Andrew Carnegie created those with the profits he made. He gave back to the city. And if you're ever visiting Pittsburgh, there are some beautiful libraries, the Carnegie libraries, plus other local libraries. But the Carnegie system is quite something, and it's worth a trip to Pittsburgh just to see the libraries that Andrew Carnegie.
Visiting Pittsburgh. I haven't been there, I think, since the end of 2019, and that sounds like an interesting idea to be able to explore. That's a little bit of a cliffhanger here as we begin to conclude episode number 12 of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast. We also want to give one final thank you and acknowledgement to the wonderful team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. Once again, they are the Pittsburgh chapter of the largest national non-for-profit children's literacy organization in the United States, specifically based in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh branch. Did you know that Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh last year alone helped to provide nearly 25,000, helped to provide over 80,000 children's books to nearly 25,000 children in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. So again, each and every month through the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, we are blessed to be able to give back to the team at Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. And you have the opportunities to do so as well too. If you wish to make a charitable donation, however large or small that it may be, you can head on over to riffpittsburgh.org/donate. And again, that's just one of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Reading is Fundamental Pittsburgh. They do such a great job, especially again, helping children, parents, and families that come from low-income families, providing not only children's books, but also literacy, developmental resources, and other additional supportive tools that can benefit the lives of little ones and help to open up their minds and hearts, especially to the world of reading. Because March, David, it's not only, I believe, just around the corner, March the 2nd in a few days is National Read Across America Day, which is the celebration of Dr. Seuss's birthday, and it's National Reading Month as well, too. So we've got so much to look forward to in the world of children's literature. And of course, here on the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, as we kick off the second year of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast here at PR from the Heart. So again, as we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go. So we want to thank all of you once again for all of your support of PR from the Heart, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast for children's authors and illustrators such as Seth and Scott, who are doing such a great job providing some valuable resources for children, parents, families, and educators for those who love great children's books. Once again, if you wish to purchase your copies of Finn and the Ferocious Flu, Dax to the Max Imagination, we've included both Seth's and Scott's official websites below, the Amazon links for both books. You can leave 5-star reviews. You can also, again, visit your favorite local independent or children's bookstore or your favorite local library to see if you can purchase or check out your copy of either one or both books. And if they're not in stock, you can encourage either the bookstore or the librarian to have them stock both of these books as part of their collection of resources for children and for those who love great children's books. We want to thank all of you for your continued support of local libraries and of children's and independent bookstores, truly some of the pillars of our community. And above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. We give a little tip of the cap, of course, in the process. If you, well, I should say before we give the tips of the cap, if you are a children's author and you would love to be able to have your brand new children's book be featured on a forthcoming episode of the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast as we begin year 2 of the Bookcast, you can head on over to our official website at prfromtheheart.com or connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at PR from the Heart. We also want to give one tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors here in San Diego, California, Laura Kavanaugh, who I'm blessed to co-host Empowering Reads for Kids with. That is the official television children's book review segment here at PR from the Heart, which just recently celebrated its 1-year anniversary as well on the CW San Diego CBS 8. If you would like to have Laura and I share your brand new children's book on the CW San Diego, on CBS 8, on Empowering Reads for Kids, and have your message shared with children, parents, families, and educators here in America's finest city, here in San Diego, California, you know where to connect with us at prfromtheheart.com, along with our official social media platforms on screen. And for more information on how we can be of service to you through our Children's Book Spotlight series by facilitating a featured TV interview or a book media tour in a city of your choosing, you can schedule your courtesy discovery call by heading on over to prfromtheheart.com. So again, one final time, we want to thank all of you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, of children's authors and illustrators all across the country and all around the world, such as Seth and Scott, to thank you for your support of local and independent children's and independent bookstores and libraries, again, the pillars of our community. And a tip of the cap, of course, we would be remiss because he truly still inspires us here at PR from the Heart and in David's life and in my life, but a little tip of the cap to one of our favorite neighbors, Mr. Rogers. One of his favorite, his favorite series of numbers in his life was 143. He always reminded all of us that we're loved and special just the way that we are. There's 1 letter in I, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. That was his way of reminding us that he loved us, that I love you. Well, since David has been kind enough to join us over the course of this past year, we always like to see at the conclusion of the Bookcast episodes 243, as there's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, 3 letters in you. That is our reminder that you are perfect, you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete, you are loved, you are special, just the way that you are, that we like you just the way that you are. So again, for David Newell, for myself, John Masiulionis, thank you so much for joining us, especially on this very special trolley stop It has been our privilege and our honor to be able to give back and to support and to provide these wonderful resources of care, these children's books through the Neighborly Reviews Bookcast over the past year. And there are many more magical trolley stops to come and more heartfelt children's books to be able to deliver reviews on as we move forward into the second year of the Bookcast. So again, for David Newell, for myself, John Masiulionis, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.
Bye.